While it may be McCullen supplying Cobra with weapons, it's Hiya who's supplying collectors with new Joes. Here's a look at the brand new Hiya toys, G.I. Joe, Destro. A brilliant businessman, weapons developer, and engineer, Destro strictly adheres to a quiet personal code that places war, profit, and the success of his own family above all other things. He excels at brokering deals, clandestine negotiations, and double-cross missions. His refined and highly advanced weaponry continues to reshape modern warfare. Looking at the accessories for Noble Destro need to wait. First, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. The Exquisite mini series of Destro here is courtesy of the folks over at Hiya Toys, who did provide the sample we could have a look at. I'll be also bringing in the earlier looked at Cobra Commander, but first things first, Destro is going to stand at 4 inches in height, or the weapons dealer for Cobra is 10 centimeters tall. Yes. Speaking of Cobra, sorry to spit on everybody, I'm going to slide over here, Destro, and bring in the earlier looked at Cobra Commander. Size-wise, I think Destro is just a little bit taller. I mean, if you were to kind of put them back to back, yeah. I mean, it's probably very apparent that you can see that Destro is taller. A similar style of body also, and they also have very much similar matching articulation. Normally, this would be the point in the review where I would start talking about the fact that Destro's display stand is the same as Cobra Commander's, but I can't do that this time around. If you're looking at Destro's and then you compare it along with Cobra Commander's, the colors may be the same, but the terrain is completely different. I couldn't help but joke. Looking at Cobra Commander's, it looks like he's been shot at a whole lot more than Destro's. While it being different terrain, they connect the exact same way. If you look at the bottom of the base, there's slots here on the side, and there's also slots provided on the top. You get these eye brackets, and I know if you've already seen these reviews, you already know how the eye brackets work. I'm only going to use one of these. I have noticed lately, though, with these display stands, that you always can usually get one eye bracket in there, and then you always have to end up fighting with the other. Really, one is all that you need. You just line the two display bases up, you pop the eye bracket together, and now bingo bango, you've got yourself 2 display stands instead of just the one. And of course, the more that we collect the G.I. Joe line from Hiya Toys, the larger the display stand is going to be. Very cool, though, the fact that they have different kind of landscapes like this. Let's move that off to the side. Some of the accessories that also come included with Destro, and we're going to move the other eye bracket out of the way, is the figure comes included with some swappable hands. Now, to be fair, he does already have, let's put this guy front and center. The figure does have gripping hands already, but if you want trigger firing finger hands, then he also has those as well. The hands themselves are fairly easy to remove, and I kind of sort of hesitated when I said that. When you are removing the hands, the pegs are very small, and it isn't so hard to remove the hand. It's a whole lot harder to put the new hands in place, just because they're so much smaller. You're dealing with everything on a smaller size here, so even like putting things in like hands can be something you'll spend a little bit more time doing. Just pop that back in place. Couldn't help but also notice, too, that Destro's hands, I want to say this now before I forget about this, that his hands aren't quite the same silver as the gauntlet in front of it. Some of the colors are sort of questionable here, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. The figure also does come included, again, the stand, with a couple of pistols. Now, he has one that's a gold gun. Pretty cool. I like the look of that one. Obviously, this can fit into his hand, so we'll do that right now. Just like that. Sometimes when you're also doing this too, I don't want to jinx myself saying this, but sometimes they may pop the hand off in the process. As you can see, he holds the gun pretty good, pretty easy. There's also a holster here on the side, so you can take that same said gun and holster it on the side of his leg. Just basically that fits in the holster like that. While maybe he's concealing his firearm. I mean, how can you conceal it? He's got a gold gun. He also comes included with this one. This looks very much, I think, like the one that we get with Zema and Tomax. Speaking of which, though, we are getting a release of that from Hiya Toys. And yet, funny though enough, it's not going to come included with this gun. Some red accents are added to the top. There is also what looks to be like a little symbol on the side. It's a little harder to make that out. Nice looking gun overall. Now, let's just say, for the sake of this, he's concealing weapons. After all, he's an arms dealer. You don't want to have him just walking around just in... Well, obviously, anyone would spot Destro right away. He stands out like a sore thumb. But let's say at least he wants to be a little bit more... a little more suspiciously hiding his weapons. Well, he also comes included with this. I don't know how inconspicuous he would be. I mean, obviously, he's got himself like a briefcase that's got a big Cobra symbol there on the front. But he gets himself like a little luggage carrying case. Now, the case that's interesting about that is that you can actually open it up. On the inside, you have a Cobra symbol, and that's nicely sculpted. It isn't just printed in place. And then he also has storage space for those 2 guns. So if you want to take like this gun, the one thing about it though is that the inside of the canister, the inside of the briefcase is actually foam. I would worry about this piece eventually ripping. I think they probably could have just done that in plastic, but I guess they wanted to make that more realistic as possible. But you can take the gun, just to fit that in place, and you can already see how that bends the foam like this. Now let's take his other gun, unholster that, and we'll also put that inside his briefcase. And this we're just going to flip around the other way. So he's got storage space. The only problem with this is when I have gone back to fish the guns back out, I always end up kind of stretching the foam. Again, I feel like they probably could have done this in plastic, but maybe foam would have been the easier thing, just because once you get that in there, plastic probably would have rubbed against the plastic of the guns. Again, it's just kind of hard to get your finger in there and pull the guns back out. It also would be much more helpful though too if I had longer nails. But anyways, he has at least places to store the guns. Again, I don't know how he's really hiding this from anybody. He's clearly got a chrome dome. Speaking of his chrome dome, actually, we'll just kind of put the accessories aside here for a second. Let's look at Destro's head sculpt. I'm generally overall happy with the look of Destro's face. It's a little harder to make this out, at least with my own eyes, but it's a lot easier to see this with the camera. You can see that he's got himself little green pupils. Nice little touches. Of course, he's got himself the gold necklace. Now, the gold necklace is, though, a separate piece. I don't know if you can see it by the... Get my finger in there. You can see that it is separate. So if you did want to remove his head to take the necklace off, you can. Oh, there you go. You can see how that's a separate piece. Of course, he's got himself the collared piece of the Cobra, obviously for the outfit that he has. Here's the only issue I really have with this figure. He looks good. I don't know how much I'm loving the idea that they used blue instead of black. When I tend to think of Destro, I think of an all-black clad character with then the high red collar piece to match that of a Cobra. Using the blue, I think, is, guys, one thing that maybe Hiya Toys wanted to add as making their Destro look a little bit different and unique. But I feel like Destro should always be dressed in black. I don't think that blue necessarily works as well for the character. Now, I don't know if they're going to release another version of this guy at some point where maybe black is going to be in the main majority color instead of the blue. The blue works okay. One thing, though, at least the blue lets happen is that all these black accents get a chance to shine. So he's got a little bit more texturing there on the shoulders. He's got a little bit there also in his arms, but I kind of have to ask the question, would this not have just looked as good, if not even better, had they only just kept the cartoon colors and made him black instead? He's got the missiles there on his gauntlets. The missiles themselves aren't removable. I don't think they necessarily would be removable. I mean, even if they were, it'd be something you'd be losing right away. They almost really do look like you'd be able to detach them, but it doesn't, I don't know, I don't think you can. Of course, he's got the Cobra symbol. I guess it's not really even so much a Cobra symbol. He's got a little decorative piece of red there in the middle of his belt. Of course, he's got the red pockets there on the side. It's only really the one serviceable holster that you'll be concerned with. This is actually using also a softer plastic. It is separate, though, from the rest of his leg. It's at least attached up here. But when it comes to the articulation of the character, it doesn't seem to hinder at all. You can easily still rotate his ankle. Detail is okay down below here. He's got more of a gunmetal gray there for his knee pads. And he's got some decently sculpted boots. The only thing I feel a bit of a stumbler here for Destro is just the primary use of the blues. I just don't think that works as well for the character. I would have rather liked to see this guy look like what he would look like in black instead. Now for the figure's articulation, going back to Destro's head. Head's going to be in a ball joint, so already it can rotate all the way around. In addition to that, though, there we go, the head pops off from time to time. I'm just going to pop that back onto the ball joint. The head also, if I can move it back and forth, it looks like there's a little bit of a wiggle in his neck. Now, I can't tell whether he's actually got a ball joint, though, there, or if the ball joint is solely relegated to the top of his head. Either way, though, it's a good-looking head sculpt for Destro. The upper torso is going to be on a ball joint. The lower abdomen is also on a ball joint. As for the arms, they rotate all the way around. You can easily hinge them out at 90 degrees. There's a bicep swivel. There's a double hinge also in his elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. His lower legs split out. That's about as far as you can actually split Destro's legs. You can take them and move forward. You can move them back. There's a swivel at the top of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. There's no articulation at all for his boot, so his boot is basically just one continued sculpt for the rest of his calf. But at least Destro does have ankle pivot. And he does also have ankle rocker as well. Good-looking figure for Destro. The only thing, again, I know I mentioned this a couple of times already, is I just don't know if I like the blue. Maybe it's something as a different interpretation of Destro, it works okay. But for me, always being like, the classic look to Destro has always been all black. And then, of course, he's got himself the red collar. The red collar isn't even bright either. Had they only maybe taken the trim, which is blue here on the figure, and maybe made that all red, I think it would have maybe also stood out a little bit more. The blue is a little jarring for Destro. It doesn't necessarily take away from the fact it's a good-looking sculpted figure, and he's got some pretty cool accessories. I do think it's a nice touch that they also include the briefcase where you could open it up and store away the guns. Now, the guns, again, are a little harder to take back out. I still struggle to get these out. Maybe let's see. Or do I even use the eye bracket? Would that be the easiest thing to... No, I probably would have to take myself... If I had nails would be also the easiest thing to help remove these. But maybe that's also one of the reasons why they also used foam. Just because foam has a little bit of wiggle, it's easier to kind of navigate around. But like once you get the guns kind of in the briefcase, they're a little harder to get back out. All in all, though, nice looking Destro. I'm glad that we are still continuing, of course, what we're getting here from Hiya Toys. I mean, if just to have the chance, definitely check out what they're doing online when it comes to the G.I. Joe releases. As far as I know, we're getting like a Dusty for the Joes. And for Cobra, we're getting a Viper. We're getting a Tomax, which I'm definitely looking forward to a Tomax. I would imagine if we're getting a Tomax, we're going to get a Xamot or vice versa. But again, like it's kind of strange the fact that of the guns that come included with Destro, one just happens to be one that comes included with the Crimson Twins. And yet, though, when we get the release of Xamot or Tomax, they're going to be coming with completely different guns. As of right now, though, I think my favorite figure of what we've gotten so far is still Cobra Commander. That may very well change when we get future releases. We're also, thanks to the folks over at Hiya Toys, going to be looking at some upcoming other G.I. Joe Exquisite minis. Those, of course, will all be coming to the channel, making sure you're coming back regularly. While I do feel like Hiya has captured the look and the essence of the original G.I. Joe toy line, short of the O-rings, the one thing, unfortunately, though, the company still hasn't done when it comes to their packaging is including file cards on the back. Now, I don't know why the file cards aren't added into the back of that and why they've been omitted, but it would be something that I would love to see them do if they wanted to really pick up and carry the line of G.I. Joes. File cards are always a crucial thing, I feel, on the back of the cardboard packaging. Destro, as you can see, I've got displayed right now with his not-so-subtle Cobra briefcase in one hand and his pistol drawn and ready to fire in the other. Figure looks good, but again, like the choice of the blue sort of still is something I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, why would they have chosen blue? Destro just always being known for a black-clad character. Choosing then blue, while being different, of course, Hiya's always wanting to add their own spin to the Joe lines. It's a bit jarring, because again, I'm always so used to the character looking one way. Figure is pretty posable, just as posable as Cobra Commander. You know, again, like with the figure having as much posability as he has, I have a better time, I feel like, being able to pose these guys, especially the fact they come included with display stands. Something, though, I wasn't expecting to see and was pleasantly able to find was that the display stands from Cobra Commander and Destro aren't matching at all. Similar kind of colors, but again, the fact that they're also using different type of terrain. I wonder if that's a trend that's going to continue when we look at other G.I. Joes. Obviously, thanks to the folks over at Hiya Toys, we will be looking at some in upcoming videos. What do you guys think of Destro? Let me know down below in the comment section. Do you also like the idea that he's all done in blue instead of black? Or if you would have preferred, like me, that the character looked more like his original toy and cartoon? Let me know what you think of it down below in the comment section. Again, a big thank you to the folks over at Hiya Toys that did provide the sample of the brand new G.I. Joe Exquisite Mini Destro, arms dealer of Cobra, that we had the chance to have a look in this review. If you guys did enjoy this video, do us a solid, throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. We may be wrapping up things right now for Destro, but upcoming onto this channel, we will be looking at both Beachhead and Firefly. Speaking of Cobras, I wonder how many times Firefly's been shot at. Also, if you guys did want to come back for more on a regular basis, I mean, you can always go back in the meantime while you're waiting for new Hiya reviews. At the very end of this video will be, of course, a playlist not only for G.I. Joe things that I've looked at, but also Hiya as well. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.